welcome everyone. This month's SudoTalks is a little late in the month, but we wanted to get one in because we're going to have SudoTalks once a month, and this is our first one of the year. And for those of you who have not joined us before, SudoTalks is basically our deep dive into the technical aspects of managing Apple devices. And before I get started, yes, the chat is working great. I can see it. Everyone chime in, let us know where you're coming from. That would be awesome. I see we got Sweden and Texas in there. So SudoTalks is really for the Mac admin community to learn more about managing Apple devices and with Addigy. And I know we have people who are well versed in Apple, and we have some new people joining us as well. So everyone's here to learn from each other. Share your tips and tricks in the chat. And today we're going to learn from the Master Nicolas Ponce, VP of Operations and Security. I'm here just to, I don't know why I'm here, Ponce, but I'm here just so you can
Technically,
talk to somebody.
technically, you're not on the slide, so
No, I couldn't
yeah.
find a photo of myself, so I just left myself off the slide. Uh, and we're going to get started. To set the stage here, Nicholas is going to be talking about remote support into manage Apple devices, although Addigy can now help with iOS and iPhones and iPads as well. We may touch on that just a bit, but the main topic is remote support to Macs. And I know a lot of Windows teams, especially Windows teams, struggle with this. And although we've had our own struggles Mac to Mac as well. So we'll be talking about that. First, I want to launch a poll just to understand the audience, where your experience is coming from. So, how are you currently handling the majority of your remote support for your Apple devices? Are you using Addigy Live Desktop? Are you using Splashtop, which is also included as an option with Addigy and very popular on the Windows side? Some of you may still be using the old school Apple Remote Desktop. I know I used that for many years. Third-party tools, no process at all, safe space, let us know. And then finally, we would like to know if you're managing mostly from Windows to Mac or Mac to Mac, because there are some differences there. So I'll let that poll run. And here's our rough agenda, but I want to get right into it. And I didn't really do a great introduction for you, Ponce, but I think most everyone knows you as the guy who knows everything about Addigy, Apple, Mac admin, Slack contributor, uh, all around good guy. Anything else I missed?
Uh, yeah, I know a
Basketball
lot about
player,
it.
former retired basketball player due to
No,
broken foot.
yeah. Um, yeah, I know a lot about a little. I don't,
Yeah,
yeah, I'll say
it's
that.
a community effort.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah,
let's
yeah.
yeah, and let's dive into it because I want to make room for Q&A because I'm sure we'll have some of that.
All right.
And okay, yeah, let's take it away, Ponce.
Thanks, Ben. Um, So yeah, we're gonna take a walk down the past and how we got here, in the first place with remote access tools, third-party tools like Splashtop, and there's a bunch of them out there. Screen Connect, yeah, many of you know we used to have an integration with Screen Connect. There's other ones like TeamViewer. I'm sure. It looks like we got at least 27 votes that they're using. Some of us are using some third-party tool. So maybe more as the votes roll in here. So if you're using a tool I didn't mention, go ahead and drop it in the chat. We can talk about them as the conversation goes on. Here's a pretty picture of Apple Remote Desktop. Ben mentioned he uses that for his internal network. I think many of us may have used that quite a bit extensively in the past. So yeah, definitely a lot of us are familiar with it. So let's go to the next slide then.
Yeah, Apple Remote Desktop, that was basically the only tool for a long time. I mean, there were some other tools, but they were more expensive and complicated. And I don't know, is
Yeah.
Apple Remote Desktop being updated anymore? Anyone know?
Yeah, yeah, it still is every so often. You know, I
Andrew says it is. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. It does require your own you have to reach the device on the local network. right?
Yeah.
But also live desktop piggybacks off that. So I know many of us are using live desktop based on the voting results, and I think probably you can let us know in the chat, but we hear a lot of great things, a lot of good feedback on Addigy Live Desktop. So
Yeah, we're still getting a few answers, but I think I'm going to close the poll now. We've got over 100 responses, which is great. And yeah, the just a lot of people using live desktop and Splashtop, a few people ARD, remote desktop, a lot of third-party tools out there being used. Which if you're using a third-party tool other than Addigy, Splashtop, and live desktop, yeah, please throw it in the chat and maybe let us know why you're still using that. Maybe you're not using Addigy yet, but and then it looks like Mac to Mac is about 70% and 30% Windows to Mac is the current polling. So in
yeah,
that poll.
interesting. Yeah. Awesome. Thank you for sharing those results, Ben. That's great, great information. And we're getting all the vendors rolling in here. So we'll talk to some of the specific ones. I saw a couple questions. If you want to actually ask us a question, make sure to send in the Q&A. We'll try and keep an eye on the chat and see if there's questions in there and talk to them. But if you want a direct answer, definitely shoot a question in the Q&A box itself in the Zoom webinar here. All right, so for the sake of time, right, many of us were using ARD. That works well if you're on the same network or you're using a VPN or some tool similar to kind of bridge the internal networks together. But many of us use third-party tools like Splashtop, TeamViewer. I see a lot of Beyond Trust, Screen Connect, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, right? And all of these usually have their own agent. They're considered third-party remote control solution. And what we saw, I want to say in 2019, 2018 is when Apple started introducing the transparency consent control settings, now referred to from a developer terminology as PPPC or privacy policy preference controls. Um, and of course, what the end user sees is the security and privacy settings, right? Like I think all of us are familiar with going to system settings, security and privacy, and approving something on your device because for one reason or another, you cannot automate that with an MDM. And here we are in macOS Mojave and Catalina when they started introducing them. At the time, we integrated with Screen Connect and we put out a lot of information about those changes when they were coming because you could no longer establish a remote connection to devices without end user consent. They had to approve it. There was a lot of functionality missing at the time, like there was no standard user approval options. So basically, an admin had to go into every workstation and literally touch every workstation to approve that or ask a user on the machine to do it. And obviously, they needed to be an administrator. We've come, that was what, 6 years ago now at this point. So, it was a long and winding journey to where we are today in 2025, which we'll talk about now. But this is where this configuration or settings came from. Let's go to the next slide.
Yeah, I think that's
And
when a lot of RMMs saw their remote control tools break. Is that right? Because they didn't have those PPPC permissions.
yeah, yeah, that's exactly right. That's exactly right, Ben. And what would happen with any of these tools, and um, this is with anything that requires a screen recording, meaning Zoom, like the solution we're on now, or Teams, or WebEx, or Google Meet, or any of our remote control tools like Connect Wireless Control, Splashtop, the list goes on. Anything accessing the screen will get this beautiful desktop view, right? And that's all you would see from an admin perspective if you were trying to help an end user, which was not the greatest because you couldn't see what was happening on the end user's device. So you had to rely entirely on the end user to give you the information about what's going on. Let's go to the next slide. And what the end user saw was a prompt like this, right? Connect Wireless Control would like to record this computer screen. And then if they pressed open system preferences, it would take them to system settings here, security and privacy, screen recording. This is a screenshot from Catalina at the time when this functionality was introduced by Apple. And someone had to check this box. And you couldn't do it through a remote control tool, third-party remote control tool. So it created a lot of frustration amongst administrators and probably end users as well as, we're just trying to help people and it's blocking us from helping people, if you will. So let's go to the next slide.
Yeah. And a lot of frustration because they would do it maybe for a Chrome browser and then the next day ended up in Safari for one reason and then not understand why they had to do it again because they had to give permissions to Safari, right? As an
Good
example,
point.
if you're going through
Yep.
a web browser.
And like as another example, right? Like if you approve you're in a team session, right? And you approved it in your browser, but then you open the Teams app also needed that. So
Yeah.
yeah, not the best. So um where are we in 2024, right? Like that was 6 years ago, and now we got Vision Pro and we're all supporting our end users from our couch with a Vision Pro on, help, closing tickets,
Yeah.
solving the world's problems. Um, but next slide. Um, so, what has this meant for us? I think we have a poll question to ask Ben here, but um, we have received over 600 support tickets for help with screen recording permissions, meaning how do I whitelist it? What do I do when I get this? How do I allow standard users to approve it? Why is this application getting screen recording requests? If you search in MacAdmins, there's over 600 messages asking about screen recording permissions. So, it's definitely a very frequent topic. And I know personally, I've had to help people navigate, especially if they're new to macOS, what to do here. Right? Like, hey, you have to go in there and approve that in order to screen share. Oh, but I'm on the Zoom meeting now. Oh, well, that means you have to go in there, approve it, leave the Zoom meeting, and rejoin, which is always a fun experience when you're trying to focus on the actual agenda of a meeting and not necessarily worry about security and privacy settings. So,
Yeah, I remember when we at my MSP when we ran a support desk, just the number of times clients were frustrated that they felt we were the ones that weren't doing something right. Like, why, I thought you fixed this. Why can't you get this right? And trying to explain to them over and over that every time Apple, updated their Mac, they had to do it again. Every time they maybe updated their browser or switch browsers, they had to do it again. And there's just so much confusion because there is a lot of clicking and to a non-admin, even to admins, it can be confusing, all the options. And
yeah.
I did launch that poll just to see how many people get tickets about this. And yeah, it's a pretty good spread all over the place, everywhere from a few tickets. Well, let's say about 44% of responses are saying 0 to 5 tickets, but then it goes all the way up to 100 plus tickets. I feel sorry for whoever's getting 100 plus tickets on screen sharing, but I guess we're getting 600. I was surprised about that. I was surprised how
Yeah.
many we're getting.
I mean, it is over the course of 6 years.
Yeah.
But or what has it been 6 years? It's a little, I'm rounding up.
And then
Um,
sometimes you wouldn't necessarily have to restart the app, but it would always tell you to do it, right? Like
yeah.
you, I mean, if you wanted remote control, I think you had to restart. But if you just wanted to see what was going on, you could stay in the app. Just all that stuff, very confusing.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, at the end of the day, it's 2025 and this is still the same behavior. They will still prompt you for screen recording. So, we may be using our Vision Pros, but our end users are still having to approve these prompts. And it's actually changed going forward. So, we're going to talk more about that and what that means for you in the next couple slides here and do a live demo, of course. So, all right, next slide, Ben.
Okay, next slide. I'm gonna go ahead and end the poll. Looks like people have stopped responding, although not everyone has answered. But end the poll. Thank you. Next slide.
All right. So, times have changed, and what we see now is that the system settings, which used to be system preferences at the time, is now system settings. They rebranded screen recording to screen and system audio recording, coupling those together. So now when they click the prompt, it takes them to this section where they can approve both screen and system audio recording. Um, that's the The extent we saw changes on this system settings pane, but it by and large is the same exact workflow we have been dealing with for the last couple years now, or 5 years or so. Uh,
Next slide.
Next slide. Thank you, Ben. All right. So macOS Sequoia, which released at the end of 2024, as all of us know, uh, Apple uh, kind of laid the ban hammer, if you will, on vendors who haven't adopted their new screen sharing API, which is relatively new. And I'm sure many of us have seen these prompts. We're about to show it on the next slide, but when you upgrade, you will see things like this should the vendor have not updated. Again, this is a fairly new framework that is still being ironed out with a lot of different things. So there's not 100% feature parity, and that's probably why some of these vendors haven't adopted. But nevertheless, this is why you see these prompts. If you want, drop a chat message and let us know if you've seen these prompts after your users have upgraded to Sequoia and what applications you may be seeing them on will be of interest, I think, to the entire audience.
Yeah, and just imagine if you're a user who's been told to security training, security awareness training, to not click on things, and you see this and it says this application may be able to collect information right away. I'm like, this doesn't sound good. I don't think I should. Uh, I don't think I should allow this, or I don't know what to do. I mean, these buttons are even kind of confusing. Open system preferences, continue to allow. There's really doesn't even seem like I have the option to deny. You know what I mean?
Well, that is because, Ben, it is already approved. Users get this prompt even if Zoom has screen recording permissions. Isn't that fun? So
Ah,
it is just a double warning because the end user experience was dictated to nag the user that the vendor is using an outdated API and they should go contact their IT admin in this case so the
hmm.
IT admin can go contact the vendor so that the vendor can go update to the new framework, which
Aha.
makes it even more confusing, right? So
Yeah.
um, in this capacity, go back one.
Okay.
Uh,
Sorry.
you want to continue to allow if you went to Sequoia in the very beginning, or participated in the Appleseed for IT program, you would know it was even a little bit more aggressive than this in the first iterations. And what Apple did was they incorporated some of the feedback about it being way too aggressive and changed it so that the user will only get prompted like every 30 days or so. And if they are regularly using the app, it resets that counter. So that is pretty cool, but still not cool that we're prompting the user so much about something that is already approved, and they will have to continue to allow it. When they reach this prompt, you will not be able to remotely access the device until they press continue to allow, even if you have screen recording permissions enabled.
And this
So
is only if the product is using the old method of approval, if I'm using the
exactly,
terms right.
exactly. So, all right, let's go to the next slide. Sorry. All right. So you can actually suppress this prompt in macOS 15.1. Again, Apple took the feedback of like, hey, let's not, we know our vendors need to update. We cannot control when those vendors update, but let's not make the end user suffer for, a vendor needing its time to upgrade, right? Like, I think these are all reasonable asks. Apple introduces force bypass screen capture alert. We have this in our MDM restrictions profile today in the catalog, so you can deploy this key out today and suppress these prompts. I see Eric said, what about the infamous local network access? That is a separate process. We're actually not going to be talking about it today. And unfortunately, there's no way to suppress that message. If you want to suppress that message, submit an Apple feedback because that's what dictates what they work on. So,
Yeah,
yeah,
that's another frustrating message for another day, for another topic.
another day. Yeah. But this key will allow you to suppress those messages, which is nice. So, device
This
obviously
key
has to be
will
51 and later. Mhm.
this key will suppress the network access or just the,
No, just
okay,
the
just
the
making sure.
the the prompt I showed on the
Okay,
last slide.
yeah,
Yep.
it'll suppress this.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yep. All right. I think we've gave everybody enough time to look at that. All right. So what's a where are we at now or in the future, right? Vendors who haven't updated, they need to. If you have vendors who you know um haven't, go ahead and reach out to them because they're gonna have to do it sooner or later, right? You know, it's just only a matter of time before that's completely deprecated and no longer supported, and they're gonna have bigger woes, if you will. Um, Now, the vendors who do update, uh, interesting enough, are going to have to support both, right? Because this technology was by and large a Sequoia thing. Maybe 14.4 you can use it, but prior to that, you had to use the old one. So the old one, quote unquote, is still the only way to do it in previous operating systems prior to macOS 14.4. When these vendors do adopt a new technology, if they're using persistent content capture, meaning they're going to be a remote control tool that like gives you unattended access, if you will, or like it's not like a Zoom meeting or Google Meet or a WebEx session where someone's explicitly sharing their screen for a certain screen for a certain time, then they're going to actually prompt a new security and privacy toggle. That's right, ladies and gentlemen, another PPPC key. I think we're all love PPPC and etc. And I saw someone said they wrote one for every single app. Well, guess what? There's more keys coming. Um, all right. So let's go to the next slide, Ben. This is so we work with Splashtop. I saw like why did we leave ConnectWise Control? Um, there was a number of reasons. I think Splashtop has been a vendor we've been able to work with very closely and keeping up with the latest and greatest and 0 day support and all this stuff. So Splashtop already updated to this new framework, which is awesome because it gives you guys the latest and greatest. It won't create those pop-ups that we saw on the newer versions. But you see here, it's actually a new prompt, right? So it's actually called remote desktop. It's no longer called screen recording. And this says this will allow anyone using the app to view or control your computer. Only allow if you trust this person, right? So next slide. And this is what it looks like. So if you're on macOS 14 and higher, you can actually open up your system settings today and go find that key. Prior to that operating system, you will not find this security and privacy uh, key, if you will. So you can pop it open, take a look. There's probably very few applications that are actually prompting this. So um, just letting everybody know it's a new thing that will be presented and is slightly different than screen recording. All right, so let's go to the next slide, Ben. Oh, it's a demo time. Okay.
So you're
Uh,
gonna share your screen?
I guess I'm going to share my screen.
Are you ready for a demo, or is this left over from last month?
Uh, it is not left. I mean, it might be leftovers from last month, but I'm gonna take a tangent here and I'll steal the screen from you, Ben, but
Yeah, yeah.
um,
Let me stop share. I'll stop sharing.
replace current sharing.
And we do have a few questions. We will get to those at the end. Thank you for posting questions in the Q&A.
All right, can you see my screen?
I do. Yep.
Awesome, awesome. Okay, all right. So we're gonna do some live demo here. It's always, questionable if live demos go well, but we like doing them here to show you guys, how the actual workflow is going to happen. So as you can see here, my virtual machine is in the background and I'm going to log in, show you screen and system audio recording is not enabled. This is just a user on what operating system? 15.1.1, and it's a virtual machine just running on my device. If you're interested in running virtual machines, check out VirtualBuddy. There's also another one, I think it's called UTM. Both are very cool apps to virtualize and test while you're using Addigy or whatever you're using or testing. So I'm going to launch a splash top session to this device. We're going to go ahead and initiate it. Obviously, it launches the splash top application. Make sure I click the button. Launches splash top for RMM. It hopped over to my other screen here, so I'm just going to drag it over. And that's it. You can see, I see exactly what the end user sees. SplashTop is still going to prompt for screen and system audio recording because it's not enabled. If you enable it, obviously this wizard or they have SplashTop has a specific name for it, but I'm not sure why they call it that. But um, at the end of the day, I already have full access, as you can see here, without screen recording, and that is because uh, as of macOS 14.4 and SplashTop adopting this technology, it's using the new remote desktop functionality, so it doesn't necessarily need screen recording. Now, if you're going to use an operating system prior to this, you will still need screen recording, if that makes sense, because it just wasn't supported yet. And to that capacity, I'm going to take one step back and we're going to look at remote desktop, and remote desktop is not prompting for anything. And the reason why it's not prompting for anything is because if you're using Addigy today and you have SplashTop enabled, we're already whitelisting this for you guys on your behalf, which is even cooler. So you don't have to worry about it. We added the remote desktop key to allow SplashTop specifically so that you can have access to remote desktop. So I see Ross said it's weird that it's asking for this. Um, and
Yeah.
what we've talked to SplashTop about improving this, they still need it in their wizard for backwards compatibility support. Um, and they haven't found a great way. We've been working with them to check if it has this approval or not, so it doesn't prompt for it. And um, we're just like any other vendor, we're working with them to try and make it the best experience for you guys. Obviously, it's a little confusing because it prompts for this, but it's not really required anymore. It's just the advent of trying to support legacy and new technologies at the same time from a splash top perspective. So we found this
No
very
matter what
interesting.
the Ponce, no matter what the end user does here, which they basically just say finish, right? I guess they
Yeah.
could unclick do not remind me again, but that would be weird. Um,
You can actually go like you'll be able to just come in here and toggle it. So that will go away. You can actually, with the remote desktop, it's seemingly you can actually go ahead and approve screen recording settings. So,
but
um,
that's just to clarify, because it's not necessary that you do this, but by doing this, you're eliminating that pop-up. Is that?
correct, correct. And we're talking to Splashtop to see if we can suppress that. So hopefully, like you don't even need to do that. And you don't
Mm-hmm.
need to do that. It's just going to eliminate the pop-up. The pop-up will only happen when you launch the Splashtop session, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
And Lars asked, so like I don't have to do anything. It just works. And as of now, yes. As of now, yes. Um, we'll go into the next couple of things here shortly about what we mean by that and as of now and what we mean by as of now. But yeah, this is um what we have done today and where we're going in the future still TBD because a lot of this is not on in our hands, right? We're the middleman because it's up, a lot of it's up to Splashtop and how they continue iterating, and also Apple and how they continue iterating on this feature, right? So um, we bridge that gap. We're trying to make it as seamless as possible for you guys, and this is the solution. Um, yeah, that
And again, just to confirm, you need Mac OS 14 or 15 to do this.
macOS 14.4 and higher. Mhm.
14.4 and higher. So you need and you need to have MDM enabled because Addigy needs to install those PPPC.
You need an MDM, yes. You cannot whitelist any PPPC settings without an MDM. And I think most of you guys and gals already have a very strong expertise of PPPC settings. I'm just gonna make that assumption just because we live in a PPPC world.
But in this situation, what I'm saying is if you're an Addigy customer and you have Addigy installed, that's not enough. You also have to have MDM enabled on the device. Correct. You
Yeah, yeah,
see what I'm asking?
yeah. You have to have MDM enabled on the device to do this, period. Like
Yeah.
whether it's, whatever MDM it is. Mhm.
Yeah. But even if you're using an MDM other than Addigy, you're still going to have to build those settings into your solution because Addigy is doing it for you on the Addigy side, but that doesn't
Yes.
necessarily mean everyone else is doing it.
Correct, correct, correct.
Yeah.
If the MDM vendor hasn't added this yet for a number of reasons that we'll talk about in the next in the presentation itself, then you can import it as a custom profile. I think most of these vendors um, can import custom profiles if they don't support it, just like we can, right? Like you can import something from iMazing or whatever out there,
Yeah.
profile creator if you're still using that one, things like that, Apple configurator, etc. All right, Ben, let's go back to the presentation. Uh,
Okay.
I think everybody understands kind of what the live demo consists of and how that worked. Um, and
Just the
see.
slide you expected to see.
Yes, yes, yes,
Okay.
yes. So, interesting component of this is that we've submitted Apple feedbacks for for a key for this, because there's no official documentation out there from Apple developer documentation site specifically for this. There's no key for standard user approval like there is screen recording. So maybe you don't want to whitelist it. Maybe you want to force the end users to approve it, but if the end user is standard user, they won't be able to approve it. End of story. Um, there's no key for that. Apple would have to create one. If you're interested in this stuff, um, go ahead and submit an Apple feedback because that's the right thing to do. Just like any software vendor, if they don't get any tickets on it, they're not probably not going to do it. Just the demand needs to be there for someone to do something, right? I think we all can understand that. I see Edwin mentioned temp admin. You can use temp admin 100%. You can temp admin that user. But again, we're whitelisting Splashtop for you. But there might be other tools out there that you're using, right? Like I saw BombGuard and ConnectWise Control and a bunch of other ones like slip. I can't exactly remember the names. So let's go to the next slide. So we added this to our default Splashtop profile for the time being. Um, We also added it to our PPPC profile creator. So you don't have to create this in iMazing or some other third-party tool or manually modify XML. You can just use the interface. Or I think Simon mentioned it, you can just create it somewhere else and import it as a custom profile. So you may have another vendor you want to do this for, and that's how you would do it. Next up.
Next slide is blank, so I'm going to keep going. Unless
Yeah,
you had
if that
something
was
here.
me.
Is this triggering a memory for you?
No, the Matrix maybe.
Okay.
Okay.
Oh, this is a leftover from last month. Yeah. We're gonna skip that, but I will start a poll just to ask if you do need assistance with what we're talking about today. So if you do want any assistance, let us know because we want to make sure you get this super powerful tool in your hands. Looks like we're at the end of the presentation, but I know we have a few more things we want to talk about. Before we get on to those, is there anything else that you wanted to talk about, Nicholas?
Um, no, I think that covers it. We didn't really get into um live desktop or Splashtop SOS. This is mainly about the changes that happen with these prompts and screen
Hmm.
access and screen recording. The differences I see. What's the difference between screen recording and remote desktop? Obviously, as we just saw, the difference is screen recording. That vendor, if they're a persistent tool, is using a legacy technology, and remote desktop is the new path forward. So if you're still seeing vendors use that old one, definitely reach out to them. get them to create a ticket, create a ticket with them so they update their technology.
Yeah, do we have a K-base on how to set up the latest and greatest, or is there really nothing that you need to do because Addigy's already done it for Splashtop and Remote Desktop?
For we've already done it. We have a KB article that I think is in progress of being updated of like these new changes, but it requires uh it requires the latest version of Splashtop, which we're installing now. You may need to get the existing Splashtop builds updated. Obviously, it requires macOS 14.4 or higher. But
Yeah.
that's about it. And
Well, so I'm going to preemptively ask a couple questions that I'm wondering. And one is, I know we have a handful of people who said they use uh, Windows machines to remote into Macs, and I understand why. Typically, you have a big Windows installation, and so your team is accustomed to Windows, and that's what they're using. But they also need to support the occasional Apple devices, and Live Desktop, which is a great solution Addigy built to use the native remote control tool built into macOS. Um, Windows teams find that they don't necessarily want to use that because they need a VNC solution on the Windows side, correct? They need to install a VNC
yeah, that is
player on the
correct.
Windows side. Yeah.
Yeah, they need a
So,
VNC application that works reliably.
yeah.
I don't think those words go together in the same
Okay.
sentence very well,
So
but yeah,
that's the rub. That's the rub. But that's why we have Splashtop. And Splashtop does work really well, especially from Windows to Apple devices. And even for a Mac to Mac team, I know we would rely on Live Desktop, but occasionally for one reason or another, the fallback was, well, if for some reason that's not working, we're going to use Splashtop. And now, just so everyone is aware, Splashtop also works for iOS, iPhones, and iPads to
yeah.
view the screen. Apple doesn't give you the ability to do the remote clicking, but you can still see what your end user's seeing and help them. Am I still saying the correct things, Nicholas?
I believe so. Yes.
Okay, okay. And the whole everything we talked about here does not it's not the same on iOS, and we're not getting into it today. But I just
Yeah.
want to make everyone aware that if you want to gain insight remotely into your iPhones and iPads, you can do that with Addigy and the built-in Splashtop solution.
Yeah.
So my this is laying the stage for my next question, going back to what we're talking about in Mac OS, is I sometimes hear especially Windows teams, because they're just accustomed to doing this. They will install their traditional Windows RMM on a Mac first and then try to get Addigy on. And my recommendation, but I want to run it by you, Ponce, my recommendation is to flip that, get Addigy on first, because Addigy is going to enable you, if you still need your old RMM for one reason or another, it's going to enable you to get remote control more quickly and get other tools like your RMM installed. If that's again, I'm not sure why you would still need to do that, but if you do, or for those companies that maybe want to install Screen Connect because they like it and they use it on the Windows side, once you have Addigy in place, it's much easier to get a tool like Screen Connect installed as opposed to the other way around. Does that make sense?
I think
What do you
so.
think? What do you think?
I think so. Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, if anyone
Um,
disagrees, put it in the chat. But basically what I'm saying is just because you're in the habit of putting your remote control tool on first, like once you move to Addigy, make Addigy your priority. It should be the first thing that goes on, lays a foundation for enabling you to do all the cool things with all the other tools. And then it's probably the last thing that you would want to remove if you're cleaning up and removing a device. You remove everything else again with Addigy and automation, and then you roll out Addigy.
yeah.
Uh,
I agree. And I think deploying the agent out first gives you that observability that you can use custom facts and things to find out things that you may not know. with whatever other tools are in the mix.
Yeah. Okay, so let's see. Thanks for joining. Okay, is this yes. This is still valid. Well, this is again, my apologies. We didn't get all the slides cleaned up from last month. So this is talking about our previous compliance recording, which may be of interest to anyone who missed it. Um, and everything else is still valid. If you want to see a demo or you want sales to contact you, please let us know. And we will be sending the on-demand recording to everyone who registered. And then I want to, we still have time for Q&A, but I do want to stress these upcoming webinars that we have. Um, First one, February 5th. This one was originally planned, I think, for January. It got bumped. Um, I can't believe how we're already late into January. I feel like January just got started. We're already almost through it. But February 5th, which is next week, Lion Guard. This is a Lion Guard event. We're a guest. We're going to be talking about how Lion Guard and Addigy work together. And then the following week, we're going to do it again with Roost. And then we do have a League of Champions coming up in February. Those are quarterly, and I don't have the date locked into my brain yet, but I know we've set a date. So we'll get that out to everyone very soon. And that's the QR code. Let's see, I have it right here. Here's the QR code to register for these events, at least the Lion Guard and Roost. And I'm putting that in the chat right now. So if you're using LionGuard or Roost or have interest in either of those solutions, please uh, use that link I just posted in the messages area to sign up, and we hope to see you there. And I know I talked to some of you about success stories. We're not able to share all the success stories, but we want to continue to hear about them. So if you have a success story with LionGuard or Roost, again, please let us know. And let's go back to
Ben, I'm gonna step in. If you guys have
yeah.
questions, make sure you send them in the Q&A section. Neil,
Yes.
it's really hard to answer some of these questions, so go ahead and send them in the Q&A section so we can answer them directly. Like and we got some questions, Ben, like will this work
Yep.
on TeamViewer or will this work on uh BombGuard? I mean, I think BombGuard upgrade or Beyond Trust is what it's called now. I can't keep up with some of these vendors' name changes, but um we don't know 100%. We don't have access to all these tools, so um, you can confirm by checking to see if that prompt we showed at the earlier stages of the presentation are generating on your devices. That means they are not using it. If they're prompting for screen recording, that means they're not using it in the sense that it's a remote access tool, right? Like that's different than Zoom or Google Meets. They're still going to prompt for that, but like the tools that require persistent content capture. Um, and Ben, if you don't mind, someone has to put the link to the webinars again. If I don't know if that was on your side.
Oh,
If
you know
not,
what? I shoot, my mistake. I sent it only to one of our coworkers.
um,
So let's see, where everyone, yes, it will help if I select it correctly. Me to everyone. And Ross, yes, thank you. Strap the car to your forehead. Okay, okay, yeah.
more immersive experience. That sounds like a Vision Pro experience, actually.
Yeah.
But um,
So we have some questions, and I just want to say there was one question that apparently was in the chat and in the Q&A about disk space. I'm going to ask that you open a ticket about disk space because we're not going to talk about it today. And I want to hear about disk space because if you haven't heard, I'm on a mission to get a device fact updated about disk space. So I definitely want to hear about it. But please send it to support@addigy.com, and I will follow up on that. So for Ken, who asked that question, I accidentally selected answer live instead of type the answer. So I just answered it live. And let's get to I'm just going to go from the very top. Is Splashtop taking over the sound choices, becoming the default in Macs? I use Live Desktop now, but my Windows network guy would like to have Splashtop work. Hmm. Does do we know what that means? Does that mean the sound is not coming through the remote session? I'm not sure.
I'm not sure. It sounds like maybe there was some issue with Splashtop. taking over this audio. I know SpatStop has an audio component where you can kind of do some audio stuff, but if you're having an issue with that and you want to figure it out, shoot in a ticket. We'll get it
Yeah.
sorted.
Sharing
Um,
sound through a computer is always a little strange, even in Zoom. Like, I'm sharing my screen, but I didn't specifically tell the computer to share my sound. And I have to specifically do that if I want to, play some music that you all can hear. I mean, that's still a frustrating user experience, I think, for all of us.
yeah, yeah. Um, I've been on the next set of events that you showed. I think just for anybody that's interested, we will also be doing another pseudo talks very soon here about our new DDM update settings, the declarative device management software update settings that launched in macOS 15.
Hmm.
So that should, I know a lot of people have asked questions about it and asked for a pseudo talks on it. Uh, so, definitely coming soon. If
Yeah,
you
that's
guys
right.
have,
We're going to have
if you,
pseudo talks every month, and I think it's the last Wednesday of the month, like this is. So we'll be back here, in February to talk about that. And
yeah,
yeah, DDM is very popular. So Nicholas, again, this guy, he presents and he answers questions all at the same time because you've already answered like 12 questions. I don't,
Yeah, yeah, I'm trying to answer as many questions. And this session will be recorded for anybody who may have joined in late or missed something. And on that note, if you guys and gals would like to see a specific topic that we present or something of challenge on a pseudo talks, or want to see some live demo of something, drop a chat message now and let us know because we're always interested in what you all want to hear. We try and ascertain that information from MacAdmin Slack. If you're not in MacAdmin Slack, check out MacAdmin Slack. Um, and we also are very active in the South Florida MacAdmin community. We did a meetup yesterday. Um, so if you're, I saw a bunch of people in Tampa, or when we started the webinar, Tampa, Florida. I think there's going to be a North Florida one as well. So, join the community. Let us know um, what you guys are interested in, and we're listening. We always want to incorporate it. And Ben is, doing a great job here trying to make sure we try and hit all these important topics you guys want to hear about.
Yeah, well, I appreciate you putting this together, Nicholas. And I know remote support is super important to everyone because as much as we love to automate everything and never have to talk to the end user, sometimes we know it's a requirement. And when we can see the screen and see what they're seeing, it's unbelievably easier than when you can't see. Especially, I'm thinking back to every time my mom calls me with issues on her iPhone, and without seeing what she's clicking, it's like, just mom, stop clicking. I'm gonna walk you through step by step. Don't click anything unless I tell you to. Very, very difficult. Um, I was also going to mention, excuse me, I was going to mention, did anyone make it to the Miami, the opening of the new Apple Store in Miami? Because they had a big news article about it. I just put it in there, and I was down in Miami, but I just missed it. I was flying out the day they opened, so I did not get over there to see it. And no, no, I'm in Berlin, so yeah, you did not see that. But yeah, another Apple Store, very cool looking Apple Store. Check it out. Um, so look, excuse me.
Don't choke on us, man.
Um,
We need you here.
yeah, I'm just going to see if we got to any questions we did not answer. And by the way, we have been doing a follow-up in Addigy.com in our blog where we do a follow-up of all the Q&A just to kind of share what we uncovered. And I pull that from the Q&A. It's really difficult to pull those questions from the chat. although I try to look at the chat as well. But let's see what other questions we have. Um, yeah, what is the link to the webinars? Okay, yeah, I just put the link up there again for the Line Guard and Roost webinars. If if you're registered for this webinar, are they also registered for League of Champions? I got to find out. Um, Matt, you want to tell us what's the best way to make sure you're registered for League of Champions? Is there an easy answer on that? Uh, I'm looking for other questions.
I'm trying to answer these questions here as well.
Are there any
Um,
that you've answered that we want to mention, Ponce, while we have a few more minutes?
um, I saw someone ask that I gave a kind of brief answer to, so I'd like to maybe expand on it. Let me find it.
Here it is. Sorry, I'm going to put this in the chat, and this is for our SudoTalks and League of Champions.
Yeah.
If you click on that link at the very top, it says never miss a live event. You can click on register for all League of Champions, which are quarterly, or all SudoTalks, which are now monthly.
What, so the question was, I typically use live desktop. Is there an advantage to using Splashtop over live desktop? Um, I think Ben and probably chat will probably agree with us. There's pros and cons to both. I think as we are mentioning, like it's a little bit trickier for a Windows admin user, so meaning the admin who is initiating the remote session using a Windows device to use live desktop. Whereas Splashtop, it's much more seamless for them. Live desktop doesn't require any PPPC settings or anything like that. So it also doesn't require any third-party applications being installed on the device. Besides Addigy, it's all using native macOS functions. So there's pros and cons to both, and why you may want to use one versus the other. Uh, that's just my perspective. And live desktop requires you to know a credential on the device, whereas Splashtop will allow you to join an existing user session based on user approval. So definitely something to keep in mind there.
Yeah, I feel like the Mac to Mac experience is really great with Live Desktop because it's leveraging the built-in uh, remote screen sharing or Apple Remote Desktop features. Um, And so I think any team who's doing, Windows to Mac support, obviously they'll lean more towards Splashtop. Or as you mentioned earlier, Ponce, they could install using Addigy, they could install any other third-party tool and do it right, assuming that that third-party tool is supporting the latest and greatest, standards that we've talked about here today. Then you'll have the best experience. But Addigy does include Live Desktop as an option or Splashtop as an option for those Windows teams. And if you are a Windows team supporting Macs, I think as your Macs grow, one thing to consider is maybe get a Mac for your Mac team, and you could escalate issues to that person who's running a Mac. That's also an idea. But everyone's different and everyone's needs are different. So if you want to talk about any of this, let us know, reach out to us. And yeah, have at least one for testing is a good idea. Yes, Ace, 100%. At least one Apple device. You need at least one Mac, iPhone, iPad, and Vision Pro, right? For testing, everyone. Ponce, when do we gotta do a pseudo talks wearing our Vision Pros, our avatars?
I'm talking on mute. Yeah, that's a great question. I see it. Someone's really accepting Vision Pros that nobody wants.
Yeah, yeah,
I yeah, I'm not a big guy for 3D stuff, so it kind of gives me a headache, but that's just me.
yeah. Maybe the
Um
next generation. It'll be lighter.
um all right. I think that covers most of it. I think there's one more question, like asking about like under the sharing settings, remote management on, is that required? Remote management on is specifically for uh, live desktop. So in order to live desktop, just like ARD, under sharing remote management, that needs to be enabled. You can enable that through Go Live um, in Addigy to do that. And that will give you live desktop access. Remote login is also there. That's for a live terminal. Those we will try and enable for you when you initiate that connection. But those two things are specific to both live desktop and live terminal. Splashtop does not need that. It is a separate process that we just walked through called remote desktop. So obviously a lot of remotes involved here. Um, so I just want to clarify that. So you can
Yeah.
disable that. If you use our compliance engine, it'll actually auto remediate that for you. It's actually pretty slick, but just keep that in mind while you're using live desktop or live terminal. If you're also using compliance CIS benchmarks or something similar, they will try and turn that off within 5 minutes because, it device fell out of compliance and we're going to auto remediate. So
Yeah, let's repeat that again because I think that might be some of our support tickets. If you turn on compliance, compliance will turn off remote access after 5 minutes, you said. So even if you
yeah,
turn it on, it'll kick you out after 5 minutes.
by default, you can. We did a session last month, Ben, right? That we talked about how you can like modify those rules. So like if you need those rules, which is definitely understandable, you can modify the benchmark with that exception because like you need to be able to support your end users. Just like some of those rules, you may need to disable to allow your end users to work or do their job. So yeah, you can. By default, it will disable it, but you can modify that so that doesn't happen.
Yeah,
100%.
but I think I even a lot of us fell into that, myself included, where I turned on compliance. Hey, super cool. Totally forgot about it. Tried to do a remote desktop session. Like, why is this only, and why am I getting kicked out?
Yeah.
Well, because
Hmm.
compliance was saying, hey, there's an issue here. You're out of compliance. I'm going to put you back. So everything was working as expected. It's just I wasn't expecting it.
Yep.
Does it get disabled when set to monitor only? No, it would monitor only would only report on your
The
compliance. It
status.
wouldn't make any
Yeah,
change. Yeah,
exactly. Exactly. Yeah, it's
yeah,
just gonna tell you that it's out of compliance if that's in your benchmark. As mentioned, you can remove it from your benchmark if you want.
yeah. And so someone did ask if you're registered for this webinar, will you be registered for the next one? And yes, we are trying very hard. I think we're accomplishing it. We're trying to get you registered for the entire series of SudoTalks and League of Champions for the entire year, so you don't have to keep registering because we know that's a pain. So if you're not seeing those invites in your mailbox, let us know and we'll get you registered. But the goal is to make registration much easier. So I appreciate everyone joining today. Really love the participation, the chat, the questions. We will get all of those questions summarized and posted to our blog, and we'll see you next week, or not next week. Well, we might if you're going to be at the Lion Guard webinar. I'll see you next week, but we'll see you next month for our next Pseudo Talks. Hopefully, you'll join us for the League of Champions, where we'll have exciting news. And thank you all. Have a great day. Bye.
Bye, y'all.